One of the big things that I've been hearing as of recently in terms of just general talk, Black Ops 4 is broken. Black Ops 4 has issues. And honestly, yes, there is one glaring problem right now that we're gonna talk about in this video that is, at the very moment, probably the most relevant topic of discussion within Black Ops 4. Regarding feedback, regarding general gameplay, however you wanna spin it, it's totally there in every aspect of Black Ops 4, because being it is a multiplayer game and something that is so reliant on connection, on servers, well, you're hard pressed not to find any discussion here on this. If you guys follow anyone in the community, whether that be on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, whatever it is, chances are you've heard a little bit of the discussion of 20 Hz server tick rate. Now, for a lot of you guys, that might not be something that you generally understand what that even relates to, but today we're gonna break it down for you guys, give you the entire situation in detail, why Black Ops 4 is air quote broken, and what can be done here, and if there's going to be anything done in the near future. So today, let's talk about servers. So some brief disclaimers before we jump into the meat and potatoes of this. This is probably gonna be a geekier video, a more technical video than that of what we talk about normally with class setups, information, updates, tips, and things like that. Today we might be talking about some things that may generally sound boring, but I'll try and keep them as interesting and as easy to understand as possible. And it is possible that maybe I don't do as great a job explaining it, but I will do my best. I'm no network engineer, but I feel like I have a general relative understanding of how these things work and how I can convey them to you guys. That said, firstly, what is tick rate? The huge thing regarding this entire, not conspiracy because it actually is true, that's the biggest thing we have to get right out of the way. Servers are running at 20 Hz tick rates. So tick rate is the frequency at which a server processes updates from game and player. The higher the tick rate value, the faster the player receives the input updates, which thus allows the game to feel more responsive. So if you end up going into a gunfight and you feel like your first shot may not have registered, but you're confident that your first shot was on the money, it's possible it has something to do with that tick rate. It's possible the update did not send through in time and therefore maybe you lost the gunfight as a result. But tick rate really comes down to just simply the higher the better. And in an online Twitch shooter like Call of Duty, that is crucial. The higher the tick rate, the better obviously, and with something so low as 20, well, that's just absurd. When you take a look at comparable shooters and other online networking games, you have Call of Duty Black Ops 4 right now in its base stage, right after launch, being run on 20 Hz servers. When you take a look at other games like Fortnite, which surprisingly, if I'm not mistaken, is still below the average of where 2018 shooters honestly should be, Fortnite is run, again, if I'm not mistaken, on 40 Hz servers. But then you have your standard of things that are 60 Hz, which can be included with all the other Call of Duty games as of recently, Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty World War II. Modern Warfare Remastered actually is that sort of anomaly that was even worse than what Black Ops 4 was. At the very beginning, it was 10 Hz when it was first launched, and I'm fairly certain it did get upgraded to what was eventually 60, but I could be off on those numbers in particular. But Call of Duty and all the other mainstream titles out there are really run at 60 Hz. That's kind of the network standard right now in 2018 for gaming. There are things like competitive and high-level CSGO and maybe even base CSGO. I've been away from that scene for ages, but CSGO is normally run on 120 Hz tick rate servers. So when you take a look at just how high these go and how much of a refresh rate these have, well, Black Ops 4 is severely lacking. But the part that gets really interesting is the fact that there are people out there, such as the user Battle Nonsense, who you may or may not have heard about. Regardless if you haven't, he's fantastic at what he does. One of the best, if not the best in the business for testing these sort of things. And so he has all the credibility in the world as far as I'm concerned. He's proven himself time and time again with his work, his equipment, and his methods. And again, they're just the best out there. But that said, he ended up testing this as of recently, as of the launch servers, what players are currently playing on in the full game's build and its full current state. And this was stemming off of some rumors out there and some talk about it over on Reddit and some of the other forums you may see around the internet. But this ended up coming out to a positive result that yes, Black Ops 4 is currently running on 20 Hz servers, which makes this a massive plot twist because during the beta, Black Ops 4 is running on 60 Hz servers. Now, as for why, that's entirely unknown. We have no clue if that comes down to simply because the game was only running one of the three main modes, whether it was something they were testing out current hardware, whether it was something that really was still affordable at the time. That answer simply is just not available. But to simply sum it up, currently the 20Hz servers versus the beta 60Hz servers means that the game refreshes at a rate that is only 1/3 of what we had at the beta, which obviously is cause for this community concern. But to play devil's advocate a little bit, of course, there are ways that this could be spun, not saying they should be. But first and foremost, Call of Duty never really advertised this year that it would be 60Hz servers, so maybe this is what we were given all along, what we were supposed to have. But again, coming back to it, it just doesn't make sense the beta was on 60Hz. Maybe it was also something that was too costly to run 60Hz servers, and maybe that's why the beta was run on 60Hz and not the full game, because we're not running 3 massive modes on servers, we were only running 1 at a time on that, so therefore 60Hz servers could be bought, could be used, and therefore provide that 60Hz platform for the beta and not the full game. But when given the entire environment surrounding Black Ops 4, it is, at least by all considerations, the most successful launch since maybe even Black Ops 3, maybe even earlier. So again, to me, the cost portion doesn't really make sense either. But we could speculate on this literally all day if we wanted to. However, there actually has been, since this entire thing came out, a response from Treyarch officially. Last night, they addressed in a Reddit post some discussion about some updates and some hotfixes and everything like that, because they're, of course, still gradually tuning the game to where it should be and where it ultimately will be in a couple of months' time, to which even then, tuning still won't probably be done. But they talked about network performance in particular, and some of the recent discussion going on around it, more so pertaining to the 20Hz, not rumor, but confirmation at this point, of how servers are running within Black Ops 4. To which Treyarch said, and I quote, "We are also noticing a lot of discussion around network performance over the past couple of days, and wanted to take a moment to address this directly. We're constantly working to optimize the game, and particularly network performance, to ensure the highest quality online gaming experience for our players. For a game launch with as massive a population as ours, hitting so many global servers at once, we configure our infrastructure to ensure game stability as the highest priority over all other factors. Now that we're past the initial launch of the game, we are focused on fine-tuning network performance around the globe using real-world data that we have collected. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, we will roll out several updates to our network setup that will continue to improve upon the experience of our players since launch. As we also said, launch is just the beginning, and we're committed to making Black Ops 4 the best supported game we've ever delivered. This is a journey that will involve constant adjustments, improvements, and additions. We appreciate your continued support and patience." So right there, while of course, right at this very moment, 20Hz servers can be annoying, you may lose gunfights as a result, you may notice some differences in terms of your connection from game to game. But over the next couple of weeks, that should hopefully change. And this gives, again, a little more understanding. I'm not saying it's entirely right and it's exactly the perfect way to do this, but they ended up saying that the main priority for what their server and networking was the game stability. Not necessarily the highest possible performance, but stability. And to that, I totally understand. Sure, you may not see eye to eye with me on this, and that's totally cool, but from just a sort of stepping back perspective and seeing it from the eyes of developers and people making the game, and from a networking perspective, when hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, jump on to a brand new game, that load on those servers for that game has never been tested at such a capacity, and therefore could make for some very, very less than ideal conditions for playing. And that's something that we've actually already seen. If you remember back for World War II, I'll be the first to tell you that I loved that game. Don't get me wrong, but it was about the worst launch that we've ever seen in Call of Duty history. If you remember all the way back, the headquarters was that brand new location in World War II where players were all thrown in all at once, no choice. They didn't go to a landing page first and then choose to go to headquarters like they could later on. Everybody was instead tossed in, and that entire massive update and shift and constant stream of players connecting was a little too much for the servers to handle. Ultimately, the headquarters was made a solo experience, then dedicated servers were completely taken offline, then things were starting to build back up, and then you had to jump into a landing page before the headquarters, and then so on and so forth. The rest is history. So in order to avert that crisis of connection again, they ended up taking stability over performance initially. For this scenario, it's kind of like the saying, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have both things all at once while having the best optimal quality for each of them. You can't have the cake of 60Hz servers while also simultaneously eating that cake, which in this case would be network stability, where you wouldn't lose connection, you wouldn't drop host and all that kind of things, which is kind of a negative perspective and very pessimistic way to look at it, I suppose. And in 2018, you'd love to have both at the same time, but just for the sake sake of that sheer amount of player count coming in, it's almost like the water is rushing the dam, but the dam was just built so they don't know how much of a load it can hold. And that's kind of the best examples that I have here for it. Again, probably not the best way to compare it, but that's the perspective at which Treyarch was looking at it from. So right now it's a gradual buildup. I can almost guarantee we're gonna see some network stability increases and performance increases here in the coming weeks, and they laid out a time frame of 2 weeks here in this blog post. So we'll keep our eyes open and keep them peeled for any updates and changes that will happen, and hopefully you can actually even feel that in matches coming over the course of the next 2 weeks as the game is adjusted accordingly. But right now, is Black Ops 4 broken? Well, I guess it's down to a matter of perspective when you take a look at how the prioritization of the network performance was dealt with accordingly. 20 Hz is certainly as low as Call of Duty has ever gone, save for Modern Warfare Remastered, but it is something that won't be like that for hopefully very long. So right now, perhaps, but in the future, it's looking bright. So I think this might be the single most biggest issue that I have with the game. Of course, there are other things that I'd love to see changed out, but this genuinely affects game-to-game gameplay. So you'll probably notice it as well, but it'll be hopefully sorted out shortly. That said, that's where we're gonna wrap it up though, so hopefully this helped clarify a little bit of the issue about why people are talking about 20 Hz servers within Black Ops 4, what it means, and what it hopefully will accomplish in the near future, our discussion of this debugging of what everything looks like in Treyarch's official response. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you guys a fan of the optimization that we may see in the next coming weeks? Are you guys a little bummed out that we started out with 20 Hz servers? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this helped you out in some way, shape, or form. If it did, make sure to drop a like down below. If you are also new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops 4, multiplayer, blackout, zombies. We got you covered here up on the channel with the best information, tips, updates, class setups, tricks, all that good stuff. We got you covered here up on the channel. So if any of that interests you, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those, so check those out. Those links are in the description below. But all that said, now out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.